Welcome to week 6 vocabulary review. So this week you guys are starting a new chapter, chapter 7, and you're working on chapter 7 first set. I'm going to click over here to our lesson plan, and you'll see here that you have a Google form that's going to be due, and the pages that you're working on for this week are page 225 to 246. This seems like a pretty, large amount of pages, but there's a lot of pictures and a lot of graphs we're going to take a look at in a second. But also notice that I've broken it down day by day. So rather than looking at all of the pages you need to read, just read 225 to 230 on Monday, or I'm sorry, Tuesday. Well, we're off on Monday because it's going to be Columbus Day. But if you wanted to get a jump start, you already have access to all these materials. But I broke it down, on Wednesday, 231 to 237, Thursday, 238, 244, etc. So even though we're off on Monday for Columbus Day, it's a 4-day week for school. However, the amount of work that you have is still pretty much a 5-day amount of work. So I'm just going to pop over to our chapter real quick. Chapter 7, and the name of this chapter is Policing America, Issues in Ethics. And it's pretty interesting because this chapter, last chapter, chapter 5, you had the history of law enforcement in America, and now we're talking about current times issues and ethics. And we all know, of course, that that's a big topic right now all across the country. So you should find this reading pretty interesting. Starts out with a crime story, just as always. And remember your big topic headings and then the smaller headings. That helps organize it for you. And like I said, there's a lot of pictures. Don't forget to read the side boxes. Here's a couple of graphs for you. Check those out. So, this is really not much of a page of reading. So recruitment, selection process. Here's your first term over here in the blue, 3 I's of police selection, right? And it goes on and on. I'm not going to go through all of this, but look, this page you should read this, but I don't think it'll take you very long. You can just kind of scan through it. All right, so that's your chapter, and these are your pages for this week. Let's pop over to Quizlet. Chapter 7, first set. The link is in your Google Classroom. I'm asking you to do 4 activities, 4 of any combination by Friday for your words. So the first term is the 3 I's of police selection. Three qualities of the American police officer that seem to be of paramount importance, and that means the most importance, is intelligence, integrity, and interaction skills. So intelligence obviously is to be smart. Integrity is your ethics, doing the right thing even when nobody's looking. Okay, or when you think nobody's looking. Being honest and being moral, okay, it's absolutely critical. And I know I've talked to you guys about that many times already. And the last one here is those interaction skills. You might hear them called interpersonal skills, verbal communication skills. It's having the ability to interact and talk to and deal with a huge variety of people of all ages and races and backgrounds, and dealing with them effectively and learning. Some people have really good interpersonal skills naturally, and other people have to work on them. But no matter what, these 3 things are critical when choosing a new police officer. You should find the next bunch of words interesting because one of them directly relates to you. But our next term here is college academies. Schools where students pursue a program that integrates an associate's degree curriculum in law enforcement or criminal justice with the state's required peace officer training. So, as you know, or should know by now, every single state is different in their requirements and in their training of police officers. New York State does not have college academies, but for the states that do, it would I'll use here locally to give you an example. If you enrolled in Hudson Valley Community College in criminal justice, they would have an agreement with the Zone 5 Police Academy that they would incorporate the Zone 5 Police Academy curriculum into your associate's degree. The classes that you would take at Hudson Valley to get your associate's degree from Hudson Valley would have integrated the Zone 5 Academy training. We don't do that in New York, but there are states that do. And so that's nice because it's basically two birds, one stone. You're getting a college degree and a state license to be a police officer at the same time. And you might remember me talking about money and how expensive it is for a police department to hire and send a new recruit, a new hire, new police officer to the academy. I talked about that before. The academy gets paid for by all of the different departments that send officers there to be trained. And so each department has to come up with basically tuition. It's tuition money. Well, if the college student is paying for their own college and they're getting that state certification, which doesn't mean you don't go to the academy at all, but if you had a college academy where you lived, it's basically paying for your own police academy. Not the hands-on things, not, the driving range or firearms range or, defensive tactics or PT. You'd still have to go to the academy and get all of those things. But for the academic portion, you would just be getting it through your college program. I think it's pretty cool. Unfortunately, we don't have that here. Our next word is public safety officer. Police department, what is that? Well, it's police department employees who perform many police services but do not have arrest powers. So we do have public safety officers at it gets a little confusing because, with Hudson Valley, again, for example, they have campus security. Some of those officers that work campus security are also called public safety officers. And then they have officers who are peace officers, and they are licensed to carry a gun, make arrests. And I think RPI, campus security, or the Troy Housing Authority, they call their security public safety officers. But your textbook definition here is that, it's an employee of the police department. I don't know of any department around here that hires civilians. You're probably talking about your bigger departments, really big departments, that would hire civilian employees to do some of the duties that police officers do. You don't necessarily have to be a certified police officer to take a report, right? There's a lot of people who can take a report or give a report. So we would have that title, public safety officer. Okay, police cadet program. And the definition here is a program that combines a college education with agency work experience and academy training. And upon graduation, a cadet is promoted to police officer. So don't think of this as like we have the Troy Police Cadet Program, but that's for high school students. This is not that kind of cadet program. I know New York City, I believe, at least they used to have a cadet program. So basically, you go to college, you're in college, and you're doing this. You're getting work experience at the PD. You're not a police officer yet, but they are giving you academy training while you're in college. And when you graduate college with that degree, the police department will promote you to full police officer. So again, that's really nice because it's two birds, one stone. We don't have this around here, but in your bigger urban areas, I believe that they do. And like I said, I'm pretty sure New York City, NYPD has a program like this. Now we get to the really interesting stuff. Tech prep, technical preparation. A program in which area community colleges and high schools team up to offer 6 to 9 hours of college law enforcement courses in the 11th and 12th grades, as well as 1 or 2 training certifications such as police dispatcher or local corrections officer. And students who graduate are eligible for police. Okay, well, this is not us, for police employment at 18. Everything but that last sentence is us. That's exactly. We call it CTE, Career and Technical Education. They call it technical preparation. Tomato, tomato, right? And so there you are. You are famous. You are legit. These are programs that are all over the country. Every single state has a form of tech prep. Now, that last sentence, students who graduate are eligible for police employment at 18, that is not true here in New York State. And I'm betting not a lot of states are going to hire police officers at 18. So, our next word is merit system, a system of employment whereby an independent civil service commission, in cooperation with the city personnel section and police department, sets employment qualifications, performance standards, and discipline procedures. Don't get too hung up on this. I've taught you about the New York State civil service system, civil service website, the fact that you have to take a test, the fact that you have to apply to take a test. And when you go to apply to take the test, you have to meet the minimum requirements to even take the test. If you don't, they're going to kick a letter back to you. Sorry, you can't take the test. You don't meet the minimum requirements. That is a merit system. Okay. Same thing, different name. Discretion. I'm sure you've heard that word, discretion. Use your discretion. It is the exercise of individual judgment instead of formal rules in making decisions. And so law enforcement does have discretion in some things. Not everything. Some things they don't have any discretion. They must make an arrest. They must write a ticket. But in a lot of lower level stuff, they have discretion. And I'll just give you an example. Not that any of you would do this. I probably used this example last year talking to you about this. Not that you would do this. Of course you wouldn't. But let's say it's a Friday night and an officer is going around on patrol and he knows that the local cemetery is a fun place for the kids, high school kids, to go hang out and drink beer on a Friday night, which of course they should not be doing. They shouldn't be in the cemetery after hours, and they certainly shouldn't be drinking beer. So he goes up there, and sure enough, that's what he finds. He could arrest them all. That's one choice. He could round them all up and bring them down to the station, call their parents, and make their parents come get them, but not officially charge them with anything. Or he could dump the beer out and tell them to get out and better not see them there again. Better not happen again. That's discretion. And I'm not, it's not going to say right or wrong. I think a lot of things depend on what choice the officer makes. So, full enforcement, a practice in which the police make an arrest for every violation of law that comes to their attention. And I can tell you right now, that is not physically possible. Well, I guess it's physically possible, but you would literally spend your entire shift doing paperwork if you tried to make an arrest for every single violation that came to your attention. And so you do have to use judgment, use discretion about what are we going to go after and what are we going to let slide. Oh, actually, here's a really funny story. True story, just happened. I didn't see it myself, but I heard about it. So police officer's driving down the road, stops at a red light. There's a car in front of him, and he can clearly see that the driver is on their cell phone. He could have pulled that driver over, could have written him a ticket. Instead, he chose to get on his PA system and said, "Driver, put your phone away." And you could see that the person put the phone away. The whole neighborhood heard it. But you know what? That was effective, got the job done, didn't necessarily have to write a ticket. Now, I wouldn't bank on that happening to you necessarily, but I thought that was a fun way, a cute way to get compliance without having to write somebody a ticket. That's not always possible, but our next term here is selective enforcement. The practice of relying on the judgment of the police leadership and rank and file officers to decide which laws to enforce. And I don't know if I really like this definition because it doesn't really explain it enough. Because it makes it sound like they're just going after a particular type of offense for no reason, like it's personal. But the thing is, you have to look at the statistics in your community. If heroin overdoses have skyrocketed, clearly heroin, drug using, drug dealing is becoming a bigger and bigger and bigger issue. So maybe the leadership and even the officers on the road, they make it known this is going to be our priority. We're shifting gears. Don't worry about speeders. Don't worry about, a couple other things. Let's focus on the heroin. So that's more what I think of when I read selective enforcement. It isn't like, oh, I'm not gonna write a ticket for that because I don't think that should even be a law. That's not what we're talking about. All right, and your last term, racial profiling. The stopping and or detaining of individuals by law enforcement based solely on race. And obviously, that's a huge no-no. That is called racial profiling, which is a violation of your constitutional rights, your Fourth Amendment right to freedom, right to move when there is no reasonable suspicion, right? And this is for an in-person conversation, a bigger conversation. Does an officer have reasonable suspicion or not? We don't often know that in the moment. It's later for a judge to decide. When the officer writes his report, he has to start with why he stopped that person. Why? And he better be able to articulate a number of factors that made him suspicious. And if he can't, then it was not a legal stop. But the problem is, in the moment on the street, the citizen doesn't have all the information that the officer has. And they may think or decide that that officer had no reason to stop them. And if they really believe that, then fine, go to court and fight it, get a lawyer, make a complaint, sue them, do whatever you got to do. But in the moment on the street is not the time to argue about it, not the time to fight about it. So, and that could happen whether it's a member of a minority community or anybody else. Okay. But clearly, stopping somebody based on race is not legal. But you might hear people say that's why the officer stopped him, and that is not necessarily true. Okay. So it gets into a big mess sometimes. Those are your words. Do your activities. Get a 100 on your quiz. Okay.